everyone, and welcome to another lifting episode. Today's show was recorded on 9/30/23. We're here with our friends Allison and Jason from Australia again. Say hello, guys.
Hey,
Hi,
hello everyone.
And
Yeah,
actually in Australia, it is currently the 1st of October, I believe, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
so it's being filmed on both days at once. So yeah, I just heard Isaac mimicking that scene from Marvel going time travel. So okay, so yeah, I just heard that when Hulk goes time travel. Yeah, he was doing that in my head. So yeah, so with this, I am actually opening the circle to true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. So Joanna, before we begin.
So before I say the Law of One prayer, I find this interesting because this is kind of something where the Sasquatch are the ones that are requesting this particular show. And it ought to be interesting because, again, Allison and Jason being over in Australia, I think it will be really interesting for everyone as well to find out what are the thoughts about all of this or what's going on in Australia, just like we have Sasquatch, or some people say Bigfoot, forest people in the United States, to give a look around to see what's going on in Australia. So we're all just impromptu kind of doing this with the forest people, but I think hopefully you find it a very interesting show, everybody. So with that, we'll open this up. We are all one. And when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved one, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence to come in now, benevolence with no conflicting agenda that will assist and allow for this conversation to be had freely and well understood by everyone who is listening. We also want everyone to be supported by benevolence right now. So be it friends, guides, past family members, anyone now listening, to come in and join and to lift the energies and to allow for this conversation to happen freely. We ask for malevolence and or mischievous beings who would maybe want to interfere with this conversation to just be gently swept away. And so this conversation can be had and the good spirits that is mean for. And again, always blessings to everyone out there. So with that, and with everyone's agreement, we just say, so be it.
So be it.
So be it.
Yeah. And that tends to clear the negative energies, and it tends to set the foundation for the rest of the show. We do that in psychic prayers too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It tends to mirror back any junk that comes our way. So perfect in that way. So the reason that I chose this title here is called "The Truth of the Forest People" is because there is a topic that they wanted to bring to light, and I'll read the channeling they did as the last affirmation and blessing for the end of the show, to keep it there, and I'll even put it in the description underneath the show as well. But this is actually quite interesting. The main message they wanted this time, and I believe this was also on Galactic Interstellar Council when Semar and them came through and talked. They briefly touched on this, but I think they wanted this to be more of a public, more open public conversation about how there are many people recently, and I'll give a rundown how people communicate with them. They go out in the woods, they look for, like, say, the tree structures or like the broken limbs, or they look for footprints. That's usually the thing. With the Bigfoot type of thing. They don't particularly like that word, though. They absolutely hate it, actually, because it was like, well, do we have big feet? Yes. Do you? They always some of them are snarky when they come back like that. But what happens is that recently there have been more and more people very interested in the forest people, which they're all for. But on the flip side of this argument, it has bred a generation of people thinking that since they are quantumly based beings, or at least the Anakam line or the Elder line, they think that they can call on them for pretty much every problem, like praying to angels or praying to gods or something like that. And it's gotten to the point where the forest people wanted to say something about this because it's not that they don't help humans. They've helped children, they've helped people a lot. But in the interim, also other beings were saying this too. You know, we're not saviors, we're not angels, we're not. You know, your idea of guides is incorrect. We're not. There are really no beings assigned to you in that particular way, or we're not beholden to two people in that particular way. And this actually came about fairly, I don't want to say suddenly they were building towards this, but then all of a sudden we met this forest person when we got here. We had a name Vitos, he calls himself. And when we first got here, the forest people we communicated with in Arizona and the tribe we normally associated with, they came through and said they would put kind of like an all points bulletin kind of thing out for us, for the forest people in this area, and show them that who we were, so we could continue on communicating. And they wanted a communication arc constructed. What that is, it's usually a visage of some sort in the center with a couple of copper pipes on the Tower Buster formula in a stand. And in this case, they wanted 3 different kinds of forest people displayed, and they wanted a triple thread communications arc instead of 2. They wanted 3 because it was easier for them to use a triple one than a double one. And they apparently wanted the strongest one on the property too. So this is, I was like, okay, I have no problem doing this. You know, they wanted their own images. You know, they had a friend of mine get some statues of them. Then I molded them, had them molded and made the orgone pieces and whatnot. But the point the point they really want to make is, in all the communications they have with people, people are welcome to make contact with either the Elder Anakim line or even the regular forest people they encounter that are more like on par with us. You know, you have the spacefaring ones that had come from the Pleiades and came down here and eventually became the Elder line during the Lemurian Atlantean period to what the current forest people or Sasquatch people are now. And there's still the Elder line. There's some that are hundreds of years old. There's even a couple there's several elders out there that are thousands of years old. That's the original Anakim line from the Lemurian Atlantean period. And they wanted the in-between ones, like the ones, not the extreme elders, but the ones in between the young and the extreme old, wanted people to know that they abhor violence towards them, of course, you know, like guns, knives, all this other stuff, but they also don't want people to get the idea that there's some kind of angelic force. There's false channelings about them right now as well. They said that people see them as this extremely omnipotent, powerful, you know, Preolithic, you know, type of, you know, badass type of one being that can't be harmed by, you know, some of the negative forces like Draco reptilians and Orions and things of that nature. And they want to say that, okay, the one of them saying, badass, you can keep that one. Okay, so I just heard that one. They said, other than that, we're not omnipotent. We're like you. We just age slower. So it's like, okay, that's actually fair. And just like we knew Fuma, Simar, Sufas, Mirak, and Morak back in Arizona, and here we know Vitos and Wayland. One is known. He called himself here too. We know 2 here, and Pylon. I can't remember the name of the female one. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. I'm probably butchering it. But yeah, they have been fairly adamant that also that this is something we also found out in Arizona. Yes, some of the forest people there gave us permission to use certain materials like Sedona dirt, crystals, things of that nature. But there are also other beings too that might object to certain things being used or taken. And they are one being of many. They are not like the stewards of an area. They are a people in basically an instrument in a choir of music. Basically, they are not like the overarching, you know, people that have esoteric wisdom type of thing. That's the kind of thing they have wisdom of the earth, wisdom of certain things. Their elders definitely have knowledge from the histories that have been forgotten. Yes, Lyrans also have the same grievance. I came to find out, and both of these races are hunted mercilessly, along with some of the dogmen, by Cabal military as well, and they don't want to put themselves at risk by doing an over amount of channeling or an over amount of communication, so people get butthurt that they're not around. This is why people presume that they're immortal. They're not. They just age slower. This is why they wanted the communication arc, so that they could communicate through their own visage. They can communicate through that, and also they said there are products out there right now that don't depict them correctly. That they have some have like rainbow looking stuff or fairy like stuff or something like that, and they're it's not that they don't have a sense of humor, they're just incensed. They want to be able to connect properly with people, and it's not like people can't do artwork or anything like that. It's like that scene in Harry and the Hendersons where you see those different pictures where the artist was doing different pictures of them, and then Harry picks up a picture of one that looked nasty, that was not like that. He was incensed by it. That's the reaction they actually have to stuff like that. That was depicted absolutely 100% correct right there. So the writers of that movie were dead on. So this is something they wanted fixed. There's also another group out there that is associated with unicorns. They're a different elemental type group. They get sick of all the unicorn misusage of the imagery and stuff like that. They get butthurt over that. So because they get depicted as like unicorn farts and all that other stuff. They hate it. So it's like I don't blame you. I would hate it too. I found out they are an elemental human-like species that was genetically created by another species called the Forbosi around the Atlantean period, and that actually had the unicorn horn. And they applied certain DNAs together to have a helper. That helper ended up becoming a sentient species, by which then Poseidon at the time took the DNA to try to create the horse DNA. He took their type of centaur, so he took centaur DNA. He ended up creating the unicorn to be able to create the horse for Athena in the mythology. He created the giraffe, zebra, all those things. So they wanted to, that particular race wanted to be depicted correctly. The forest people are the same way. When I was making some of the products that had their images on, I said, okay, what don't you want in this? They're like, you're fine, just don't add the colory stuff or the glittery stuff or something like that. He goes, give that to the fairies, we don't give a crap. So it's like, okay, so they said they want this, they can have it, we don't particularly care for it. I'm like, okay, that's fine by me. So they want like their basic look. They want the they basically look like us, just with a lot of hair. They have sometimes they look like some of our different races. Sometimes there's a hybridized between human and forest person, and they have kind of the curled hair as well. I've seen those. And all around the world there are the different types. Like Australia has the Yowie, for instance. They said the only one different from theirs, and this will surprise people, is the Yeti. They said the Yeti is a nasty reptilian species. They are not a member of the Anakam lines or the forest people lines at all. Like depicted, guarding temples, like in Mummy 3, the Emperor's Tomb, like for instance, had the Yeti guarding Shambhala, and stuff like that. They said the Yeti is a nasty reptilian variant that grew white hair, and there are white-haired forest people that are like how we have elderly people that we get white hair after a while. But there is a difference. People have associated the white with and Yeti with elderly Sasquatch, and think more white reptilian, like how the white Draco are. But underneath is more of a grayish, whitish skin that's underneath there as well. Kind of like polar bears have the black skin under it with the white hair. They kind of have that with a grayish, blackish, bluish tint underneath that. So there was a case years ago where somebody in the Himalayas saw this, thought they saw a big man in a coat, and they got a little closer, saw this being had a fire. This being turned around was a reptilian. Had a larger you know, with like the crocodilian type of teeth. They ended up shooting this creature, and they shaved the body afterwards and found out it was a reptile,
Hmm.
that had adapted to freezing cold conditions, and it was not cold-blooded, it was warm-blooded. So with this, they're saying there is a major difference here. Like the beings they say are around Mount Shasta. Oh, Yeti sighted there. Yeah, because it's guarding. Those were genetically engineered reptile Draco-like variants that were guarding alien strongholds and stuff like that, or around military facilities and stuff like that. Those were more genetic mutants. So they wanted to make sure the difference was actually seen there. Oh, I'm getting the thumbs up for that particular one. I knew that needed to be said. Vitos himself didn't actually mention that, but they're giving me the thumbs up on that. So, but yeah, to give a rundown to anybody that hasn't seen any of our forest people type shows before, like World of Sasquatch, which we are bringing back. I will say we are bringing that one back because there's been a loud request from them to bring back World of Sasquatch. Over resounding yes to that. So not heard from the Dogmen or the Cat people for the other variant shows, but the forest people, they are always associated with different hominids on the earth. Have some types hybrid together. Yes. Are they associated with Gigantopithecus? No. They are more from the Pleiades, and they came in earlier human histories along with other galactic groups that existed millions of years ago here. So people think prehistory, everybody is just running around dragging a club and clubbing dinosaurs and stuff like that. No, there were giants. There were ones that could grow and shrink, kind of like you see in the cartoon series is that out there, like you see like in DC, they had Gigantor and Apache Chief where they could grow and shrink. Then you had the forest people that were considered to be giants, but they were more of a solid form. You had some of them, and then you had the earlier ones that could slightly morph and have high telepathy skills. And you also have, they wanted me to differentiate where you see them getting inside of an orb. Sometimes you'll see them quantumly kind of getting inside of an orb sometimes in films. That's actually a small spaceship they're jumping into that is actually more of it's like the TARDIS on Doctor Who, where it's bigger on the inside, where they transport into it, but it's actually a ship with a crew and everything. So that's what some of these orbs are. And it's a commonly used type of technology. It's the bigger on the inside type of technology, like the TARDIS. Very commonly used out there in the galactic realms. So people try to associate with one species. You can't do it because a lot of them trade. Like the different gray species. There was one in Yosemite, for instance, that a guy caught some grays out there one time, leaned against a rock and fell into it and found grays messing around in a lab. And it was a holographic space they had dug out for themselves. They caught him, abducted him, tried to wipe his memory. It didn't quite take because they were in a hurry. And then he went back to that same rock, couldn't put his hand through it because they took a holographic like box and shoved it into the space, set the physical matter aside, and had a space for themselves in there. And it's a frequencies thing where you can move the space around as well. They moved it. This is what some of those forest people are doing versus transforming. Can some of the extremely older ones do that? Yeah. Are there elemental forms that can turn into orbs? Yes, but the majority of them people are saying are little spaceships. So and elemental fairy-like forms as well. So they wanted me to differentiate that, and they're not all elemental. People always say, "Oh, they're an elemental. They're a hairy fairy," and he's like, I could hear them saying, fairies are slightly different. We're closer to you guys. So some might use that as a badge of honor, but this group here is going with that designation. So they have nothing against fairies, but they are saying that they're more like us. The elemental forms are an amalgam between different elemental forces like earth, air, fire, water, or metal, or different amalgams of different elements together, usually two that form a life form or some kind of dryadic form like a tree, like Treebeard or something like that. So people have associated the two groups together, where yes, forest people are associated with the elements because they're always outside, but they're closer to us in physiology. It's just they live longer. So that, and some of our toxins irk them more than it does us because we're more used to it. So that's the kind of stuff they wanted me to get out in this particular show. And I will be reposting all the World of Sasquatch episodes that we've ever done to galacticinterstellarcouncil.com and lifting.net here very soon. And then we're going to rekindle that show as well. So I think we're at a good place where you can actually, sorry, I didn't mean to be that long-winded, but that's the stuff they wanted me to get out. But no.
Before we bring them through.
No, I mean, they have to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
That's the point. I am curious, in the Australia side of the world, what are talked about there as kind of the forest type people?
Well, we haven't really, not from our knowledge, have we actually spoken with any of the Yowie or the forest type people here.
Cottage.
There was Lawman.
Yeah.
That was in the cottage that just Jason used to live in a cottage, and that had a lot of foresty area, and he was a Narcan though.
But still considered to be Bigfoot or
not Bigfoot. They don't like Bigfoot.
Oh, sorry.
I just saw Vitor doing this to you, so it's like he's messing with you, but yeah, they generally don't like that. They see that as more of a slur, but they don't. It's fine, So
we did a session with you, Chris. This is going back years ago now, and you said that there was his name was Lawman, and he was long hair, blonde, long hair, and he was really beautiful, positive energy. And he was always around us for quite a while.
Yeah, Jason used to see him kind of take like us as little children to go and kind of play or experience stuff when we were living at the cottage. So that was one that we had encountered.
Yeah, but let's just say it wasn't physical.
No.
Just to let everybody know. Yeah.
But with the history, so like I said, besides Lawman, we haven't really encountered many forest beings. So I had to actually research the history, and I felt that it was really good history if I went back to more of the ancient people, like the Aboriginal people that have experienced or have thought that they witnessed Yowie, what they call Yowie here. And I've got stuff written down, and they do have a description there was a book published by John Pinkerton, and in the description they said that there were these beings that were flat nosed, and they can explain if this is true or not. Flat nosed with wide nostrils, thick eyebrows with sunken eyes. Their mouths were prodigious width, with thick lips and prominent jaws. And the Aboriginal people would call them either Yahoos or Yowies, meaning hairy people. So that's the information that we got. And then in northern Queensland, the Aboriginal clans believe that they coexisted with these people that were either man-like or ape-like with long hair. However, in that region of northern Queensland, there was history or stories of the Aboriginal people being attacked by these Yowie groups. So I don't know how true that is either. And they said there were two different types of Yowies. There was one called Gigantuicus, something. I don't think I'm pronouncing this properly. Gigantopithecus.
Oh, Gigantopithecus. Yeah, Gigantopithecus is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And they said that there was between 6 to 10 feet tall, ape-like men with talons for fingers. And they compared that to the American Sasquatch, but then there was also another grouping that were more of a 4 to 5 feet tall. So that's what the history is from the Aboriginal history, that there were these two different groups. And then there's, I don't know how true that is, so it'll be really interesting to know if that's actually true from what they have specified.
Yeah, what I got a nod yes on some of it. With the Gigantopithecus, that was supposed to be more of a Paleolithic type of ape species. I'm thinking some of the descendants of the Gigantopithecus and some of the descendants of the Anakam lions actually merged at some point. Oh, is what you're saying? They weren't the same people, but there were variants that were created after a while. Okay, somewhat. You're saying there were some weird variations. Oh, yeah, they're also specifying the one in Indonesia, the orang pendek. That's there. They said that one's insane. That's not actually one of their people. That's more along the lines of face eater or troll, which that's out in the Appalachian Mountains, where we are near in Virginia and North Carolina. That one was more like a baboon and is controlled by aliens, and they're extremely barbaric. But the Yowie lines, the actual Yowie lines, descend like the forest people seen in California and Arizona and up to Vancouver Island, all the way up in Canada and Washington and Oregon. These are all Lemurian descent lineages. Like this is why some of them have the Samoan look, like they have the wider neck. They kind of look like they would be a Hawaiian person or something like that. These were from Mu/Lemuria descent lineage, and some of them were also on the Lemurian Council in the day and age with like some cat species, and also the more Hawaiian looking people, and also became Mayan descent lineages, and also the some of the Native American tribes along and Polynesians on the other side. So when Lemuria, parts of it sunk and parts of it moved into a dimensional space, they went to both sides of that. Same thing would happen to the dogmen that were over in Atlantis, where they went to all angles and sides as well. From there, that's why you see some of the werewolf myths and stuff happen along the edge of where Atlantis used to be, like Hyperborea over into Transylvania, Romania, and also the Scandinavian countries and whatnot over there. And they forced the top of the world. But over here, it's the same effect with forest people, where they went to other areas that may have been Mu or Lemurian outposts, like Australia is, because you have the Micronesian nations over here and also that mysterious area called Non Madal, which was a Lemurian or Mu like naval center, where you hear them talk about. That's the outer edge of Mu. It was right there, and then you have Australia and Japan that were connected to it as well, that were right there. So yeah, there were some that escaped. Some of these lines that escaped, just like with Atlantis, there were other lines that escaped from Atlantis. And they merged with some of the other less advanced people as well. The same thing happened with some of the Anakim lines over here on the Lemurian side. So that's what happened. That's where you get the fusion of different DNA. I just got the thumbs up with that. So that I was doing that a bit. I had historical knowledge, but I was adding intuitive bits of that as well to try to translate that. And they're saying I had that correct. So. But yeah, that's the one you were talking about is true. Yeah.
There's also been the history of more recent sightings, and I do get a feeling that they don't really want to bother people, and they don't really want to be bothered by people, because some of the recordings here is in 2016, a bushwalker in Darling Downs mountain ranges near Toowoomba said that she saw what could be a Yowie person and was just sitting in the long grass and didn't want a bar of her. Just was like, I just got the image of this being sitting in the long grass and just doing its thing. Didn't want to take notice, didn't want any interaction. It was just being what it was being. And then there was also video footage. Apparently there was video footage in Ipswich of an Ipswich Yowie in 2019 on a YouTube video where a man was just trying to take video footage of a large flock of cockatoos. And apparently there's video footage of that as well. And then there's also a sighting that was just more recent of an auburn head creature that was sitting beside a dead kangaroo. I mean, I know everyone has to eat, so but I get the feeling that they just don't really want to be bothered by people. They just want to go around and live their life, do their day, pretty much.
Yeah, that's kind of what that's some of the descendant lineages you're seeing too. Some that talk in symbols and signs and leave like dead animals and stuff as gifts, or like leave rocks and stones and stuff like that. The Anakim elder types will as well, to an extent, with the gifts and everything. But the ones you're seeing, next to the dead kangaroo and such, those are the tribal ones that are living out in the bush as well. They will do that. Oh, what? Oh, even you guys do that. Okay. I thought that you guys, since you had tech, you still have tribal roots, so you'll still do hunting and all that. Okay. I was wondering if there was a separation there of the more tribal and the more the more tech advanced, and apparently not. So with that, I was just corrected on that one. I mean, Vitos was pretty quick to correct me on that, but yeah, the one that was spotted next to the dead kangaroo, would that be more of a tribal one that would do mind speak, or is that one more symbol speak or an element of the two? Mind speak, not all of them can mind speak. Some of them speak in the whoops in their own language and stuff like that. And then you have the ones that do telepathy. It's just like with humans. Can all of you know how to use telepathy on an advanced level? No, it's kind of like using the Force for a Jedi. Not everybody was that. It's the same kind of difference. So he's basically saying some of us would appear almost godly to some of them too, because of the energy frequency differential or the advancement, kind of like how one of us would appear strange to a caveman. So it's like we would be seen as gods to a caveman, like some of the ETs were to like Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon man and all them. So, and some of the other hominids like Australopithecine and Denisovans, all those types. So it was like, so what are you trying to say, Vitos? Oh no, I had that. You were quick to correct me on the other one. I thought he was going to correct me again, but yeah, you've had it. You've had that correct so far. Though with the sightings, some of them just want to be left alone. Some of them actually hide from us, and some of them, like some of the other ET and Agarthan groups, have had it's a separation of the densities type of situation where some groups evolved more than others, kind of like the Tartarian groups or anything. We talked about this, where they chose to just not circle the toilet with the rest of us, and they went into a different place to wait to kind of rejoin us. And they're more associated like the Harry Potter wizarding world, where you had the different like magical groups and you had the regular human. It's kind of like that with these guys too, and these guys associate with that. They're called the Tartarian World Unity. We can go into that in a different one, but but with these guys, it's the same thing, where some of them have just kind of separated over here and they're doing their thing. And then when people are ready to communicate, they want a more meaningful, unified conversation, not that they want to be saviors, not that they want to be demonized. A very famous case of them being called demons would be more like by the Vikings. I hate to bash the Vikings, but Eric the Red and Leif Erikson sent out scouts when they first came to North America. And they sent out scouts and they said there were forest demons living, with the glowing red eyes and stuff like that, hairy men. They said they didn't want to. They weren't going to mess with them. They said very similar in physique to ourselves, but we're like, no. Some of them had some of the Scandinavian genes as well because of Atlantis. Some of them had similar languages. The same with the ones on the West Coast have tribal languages. So you have a kind of a mixing of the worlds there. But even the Vikings went, no, these are forest demons. But no, that's not the case. Even in the Appalachia here, there's some people that can't tell the difference between the trolls and face eater groups, or the forest people. And the face eater groups, they're a baboon looking species. Are taller than forest people. They're like 15 to 16 feet tall. They're a large baboon species that has the face of a baboon. And some people have seen a little cap on their head because they know some aliens have using AI have controlled them to a certain extent. Just like with the Draco, they have an AI rod type of system going on in them. That's why when you cut the head off one, it spews out a bunch of soul shards and such out of them, and nanotech and everything. They've done that with the face eaters as well, and they de-evolved them into like a barbaric type of thing, like the Draco. People mix these up all the time. Like in the Great Smoky Mountains, you have a mix between forest people and face eaters. The two avoid each other like the plague. The face eaters confine themselves to really far off in the backwoods, and the reason they call them face eater, it's like with a chimpanzee. The when they go wild, when they get to that puberty stage, they go for the person's face. That's why the baboons are the same way. They're vicious. So they got that nickname because they saw the tall, Sasquatch-esque type baboon with wearing a person's face. So they basically, because they've torn it off of somebody, so they call them face eater. That's where they got that from. And so that's the barbaric. They wanted to just differentiate between the two types, and dogmen too, that may look similar with a more pushed in face. That's another episode worthy of talking about, is dogmen. But they've been confused with that and goat squatches. There's that, and bear squatches. That's another group as well. They've been confused with them a lot because there was more of an open palette of beings on this planet before the Orions decided to screw up a lot of stuff. So so they wanted to differentiate between all these descent lineages. It's like in the show Grimm, where you see all the different races hidden that are in the background. It's exactly like that. And they even hinted in that show towards the Orions, Orion or Reaper type group, Grim Reaper type group, and their human meat puppets pretty much dividing the world. And they actually got that bit of galactic history correct when they basically said the Tower of Babel thing separated all the languages. That was Atlantis. They actually got that part in the show correct. So for galactic history, this happened with the forest people. We once had a strong alliance, and that drifted over a period of time, and they're trying to basically put Humpty Dumpty back together again, is what they're trying to do with communications and unity. They don't want people to be in awe, and they don't want people to be afraid of them. They want people to discern when they go into wooded areas. They want people to discern whether the forest people are wanting you to leave, or if it's someone else trying to lure or rope you in, like reptilian or some vicious face eater type troll, or even a nasty forest person that might just be an ass. You don't know. They're like us. They could be screwing with people. Dogmen do the same. There are groups of them that will do that to humans and lure them out in the wooded areas too. Some elementals will do the same. There's like my friend Aubrey and I just did a conspiracy sector on the Slender Man. That's another one that lures people out into a wooded area. They want people to differentiate, discern if this is right for them, or if they feel this like loving feeling and wanting to communicate. That is the true, genuine forest people that just want to resurgence of that unity. So that's what the message they really wanted across. They want to be able to communicate with people, but not if they're going to act scared, carry guns with them. They abhor guns. They abhor bringing weapons into their territory. And some of the younger ones have resorted to actually chasing people out of there. Sentinels that guard colonies will chase humans out there if they're carrying a rifle or a pistol or something with them, just out of safety. It's not that they're going to hurt the person. They just spook them. But they want meaningful communications, and some just want to be left alone, like what you're saying. Some of that just don't want to be bothered. I've come across some that just don't care to speak. So, well, they'll wonder why a human can mind speak with them. They'll be like, "Nah," they're like, not to be rude, but I don't want to talk to you, kind of thing. I'm in a bad place at the moment, like how one of us would. It's like, okay, we're good. But then they will come to you, and they will let you know when they want to talk. They want people to be out in the woods. They want people to be safe. They want people to explore the planet again and be away from technology and everything and be into nature. But they don't want people wandering into their territory. If you see a big X like this, don't wander into their space. That's basically a keep out sign. It's not the same as the Cabal X out there, where that's a mark of the Cabal family. It's a different story with that. The X for the forest people is a stop sign. So that's essentially what that is. So that's where they are with that particular conversation. Joanna, did you want to say anything about this?
I want to come in and chat.
Okay. Did you have anything else to add on the subject?
Do you want to?
What came to mind, because we live in got the Mount Dandenongs here in Victoria, and we're at the bottom of the mountain, and it's beautiful Sherbrooke Forest. You got Monbulk, you got Alinda, Sassafras. It's really beautiful and magical. Some parts are heavy and not good, but there's been a myth of and I don't know if this is associated with it, but I kept on getting it in my head, so I'll just express it. That there's been a lot of sightings of a Black Panther in that area, and I thought they might know if that's true or not. And if it is, perhaps a shapeshifter on a level. So it's been around for 40 years, maybe. But that kept coming into my mind to discuss with that.
And they can also shift into animal forms too. They've been known. Now reptilians will use mental telepathy, or some can shift some of the forest people can shift into animal forms as well. So a lot of the elemental forms can't. Oh, did we lose you? Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, it looks like you guys froze. But okay, we'll just keep going with this. But the shape-shifting ones, that panther, is that a forest person, or is that a Yowie, or is that a Or is that a different species? Uh, oh, okay. Yeah. They're basically comparing to when we were in Arizona, uh, where we would see a deer walk through the neighborhood where my mother and Laverne lived. This deer would look like it was patrolling and looking around like this. That was one of the forest people walking through. So what happened with this is they're saying that this black cat is one of them, but there's also cat species that can shift as well that live there. There's like Lyran types that can do the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So that specific one though, that's been cited for about 40 years. You said that
Yeah,
particular one is is that a forest person, Yowie, Lemurian descent lineage one? Okay, yeah, that's what they're that particular one is Yowie doing that, kind of patrolling an area. But take a less
Mm.
conspicuous form there, guys, because Vitos is saying right, but at least in Arizona, they're taking like a deer like form. There are demonic forms that are cat forms too. There's degraded Lyran forms that are actually venomous, like a werewolf would be, with like a viral venomous type of thing, like that can infect somebody to become something like a werecat or a werewolf or a vampire. This is not the same thing. That's also a story worthy of a show too, is like the venom type thing that goes with this. But this, like I had a dream where I had a black cat come to me and I grabbed hold of the teeth wrong in the dream, and some Lyrans came to me and pulled my hands up to a computer and said I had been infected with something. Let us purge this. And they said this is a barbaric version of our people that de-evolved into a vampiric form, spell like black magic type of thing. Hence why people associate black cats with black magic type of thing. But this that was located around in Arizona and California area. But this is definitely them. They wanted to make the distinction between the two things. So
Mm.
man, it's weird. Yeah, you guys are completely frozen. The image of completely frozen there. So but that's okay. We can just know everybody. Obviously, when something we were talking about this, the screen froze on that end. So that usually happens with certain energies and everything or interferences. Uh, so I think that's a cue to go into the galactic portion of this. So, or clue rather. Yes, I know, Isaac. There's a difference between the words. I understand. So, yes, he wanted to actually make sure that he plugged his new. Oh, for crying out loud, Isaac. Okay, he goes. He wants to plug his new product line. Hairy people matter. So, or hairy lives matter. That one too. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. All right. All right. Yes, Isaac. That I let you get the word in. So yes. Okay. Yes, I know Vitos. He's retarded. Thank you. All right. Let's see. All right. Yeah. You can come in, Vitos. Yeah. Vitos. I do want to say he takes the form of a yellow butterfly around here. We see him a lot.
oh,
We've seen him a few times. Like it's a greenish yellowy, like a neon colored butterfly, a fairly large one too. And that's a clue if it seems out of place or if you hear a voice in the woods, that might seem like a coyote or something like that, but it's slightly different. They can mimic the vocals, but they want some people to know they're there, like for people that are Sasquatch hunting, not like gun hunting, but those that are wanting to communicate with them. I suppose they got to call that a different group. Sasquatch communicator groups that you would say, okay, not hunters, okay, like ghost hunters. That he said that implies he's wordsmithing, but that implies that they're actually doing harm. Okay, which some do, yes. Okay, but yeah, usually if it's different looking or something like that, Odin will come through with ravens too, and so will the forest people. They do the raven thing. Odin will come in with it with a raven form too if he wants to communicate too. So you have to differentiate. Elementals saw a raven, large 3.5 foot raven form in Arizona, which was actually a forest person that was actually coming through in a bird form. I caught it in a transformative stage and he flew off when I tried to get a picture of him. So I woke up, went outside, saw him outside, and he took off. So all right, Vitos. Yeah, yeah, I know he's tapping his wrist. Yes, I know. What are you in a hurry for? You have a communication arc now. Okay, let's see. All right, let's see. All right. Okay. Take too long to explain. Okay. Uh, This is strange for myself because I've never actually communicated in this particular way before. You would classify me as more of a type of beach bummish type of person. I actually hail from your Outer Banks area, up in that area, not the Great Dismal Swamp where the face eaters dwell. No, but some of our people do go through there too. And it's very appreciated that you put Tower Busters in that area. That's what got me to notice you guys, as well as your other forest people friends. But because you were repelling one of our rivals. The same goes recently with the creation of the communication arc. And when it is completed, this is why he felt a great anger surrounding it. He thought this was us telling him he screwed up on something. No, this was one of our enemies, greatly pissed off that a greater communication platform and or anchor was created to be able to communicate with us and not them and their little trickery. You would call them face eaters, but there's also another dynamic group that are more like baboons. You've come across them, that they're not the barbaric type, but they're more the sentient-esque type and not feral. The barbaric ones will abduct people out in the forest. You'll even see clothes folded at the side of the road. Those are face eater ones that have spotted in North Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. But the baboon guys were the ones that were pissed because the regular ones, they were just butthurt that we got a voice and they did not. There are rivals amongst us, some of our groups as well. Not all of us are kind to humans. I personally am. I think those guys are idiots. But in this particular way, I do live on more of a beach-like setting and not in the forest, even though we would be classified as a forest person. They also stretch all the way over into your Outer Banks, and also you encountered some in your Yorktown not too long ago. That was more of a cautious group that also spoke to myself as well. The fact that you were recording up there, they're actually a very kind group that just want to be left alone for the most part. You happen to see them, they let you speak to them because you had the ability to feel them in the space. They will speak soon again as well. But this, I myself am also in the forest areas, but also mostly on the beach side, like how you would consider again a beach bummish type of person. Some of us have an affinity for that. Most of us are more for the forest, hence the designation or the name forest person. So I also will go into questions. I'm not used to this level of communications. This is hence why we wanted the anchor, because not all of us communicate outside of our areas. I am physically close to your locations at this current moment. This is why I did the little tap on the wrist motion that I asked him to. And when you do this, you all know time in that particular way. Just like he was not comfortable with live interactions, it's kind of the same. I have to get used to this level of communications. There are hundreds of others that wish to communicate of our people in this same fashion. So I will answer questions.
I just want to ask one quick one, and then I'm going to turn it over to Allison and Jason, because I find it fascinating that we're speaking to folks from Australia regarding this subject. So Chris spoke for you earlier, but I'd like for you guys to be able to speak for yourself. Can you kind of alliterate what are some of the misperceptions that you want to clarify on this conversation today?
Yes, and yes, there were no miscommunications there. His history is on point with our people. It's not always true of all of the groups, mind you. The most de-evolved one of the group, aside from your face eater, would be more of your orang pendek, like what he said in Indonesia. That one is mentally insane and retarded. So it is more of a feral beast that I am surprised it hasn't gotten shot by now. But this... in this instance, yes, there were no miscommunications about our people, except that I do wish to reiterate. Do not consider us more angelic in that way. Consider us more your equals, your brothers even, and sisters, even though we have a form that is familiar but not so familiar to you, even though some of us are more like are spacefaring in that particular way. We are like you. We make mistakes like you. We dress ourselves sometimes like you. I know that's hard to believe. Some of us do run around in the buff, but others do have armor, like some of our sentinels of the Agarthan areas, as you call it. That's not actually its true name, but our realms under the ground or the earth, and sometimes even crystal-lined caves. The dogmen do something similar, like where you use the quartz veins to communicate. We can even touch those and send energies along some of those. I myself am actually a little older. I am not actually as old as Vorkak, the one that came through and spoke to you. He was roughly 100 and some years old. I'm actually closer to your 80 to 85, give or take. Like same like your Aragorn character in Return of the King, where he said he was of a people that age slower. It's essentially the same difference. The miscommunications, though, are some of the channelers out there that speak of us like we are quantumly based gods. I would like to correct this. Yes, there is your Enkidu character from your Epic of Gilgamesh that was depicting one of our people as well, from the times of Atlantis and previous, and descendant lineage from there, as well as Lemuria coming in from the other direction, from the east to the west versus Atlantis to west east. But that's where some of that came from in your Mesopotamian area. But we are not like what some of these other channelers are saying. We are not. How can I put this kindly? We Yes, there are some of us that are ambassadors of communication, like your Kiosa was when he spoke on these programs, where he was an ambassador to a bigger group. That is also true, but what is not true is there are certain channels out there that channel the quantum Sasquatch, where they are talking about the different ascension narratives and plugging, you would say, your Galactic Federation narrative, as you like to call it, an under GF narrative for short. I'm actually fully supporting of the anti-GF narrative. I don't particularly care for this or the ascending into 5D narrative. There are others that promote this, and I would like to say that our people are not part of this. This is AI trickery. This is also trickery amongst other races that wish to go with what you aptly call the yield, or the yield to the GF narrative or the ascension narrative. And some of our people have been intertwined into that, and I wish to correct this particular glitch in information. There's a lot of trickery going out there right now. AI actually is your top one at the moment for trickery, and but there are also other races that will try to get you into the whole Galactic Federation narrative. That is the second most top trickery. They're almost even with the artificial intelligence, but not quite. The artificial intelligence will throw holographic image after holographic image, even portraying us from time to time to time. But there are aliens trying to plug the greatness of the Galactic Federation. That is actually the second place narrative in play. The AI narrative encompasses the Ascension narrative and the Into 5D narrative, so I keep it in that category. The other one is the GF narrative. These are nearly dead even, but it's still first place and second place. And we've been incorporated, unfortunately, into both because of some imposter entities. Of course, Orion, you have your Draco and all of them with negative telepathy and such, trying to get people to think there's their higher soul or some garbage like this, when in fact your true oversoul and your true avatar self are attempting to mantle. Some things are just being blocked because some of these negative beings in AI scan for when people are going through their 4th or 10th dark night of the soul, and they're attempting to block them from rectifying or integrating information that would be crucial in ending this and auditing all of this, or ending the audits in place. And then you have the GF narrative, which are a bunch of, you would call them buttheads, trying to plug how great those people are. They look like an elf sort of. They are cousin lineage, descent lineage to that of the Syrian group that took over Lemuria in the final years of the blue blood lineage that was there. You had this explained to yourselves on a show recently, which is very apropos, I must say. But now I can actually go into more questions if you like.
Yeah, so Allison and Jason, I just want to let you guys start asking some questions.
Yeah, thank you for being here. It's really interesting to talk to you and get a different understanding, because we did a little tune in yesterday after our podcast, and what came through is you guys are so misunderstood. So it's nice to get like a more of a connection and a real truth on that. So thank you for that. Appreciate that. And the question I have for you, I don't know if you can talk about this a lot, but I was just wondering if you could just share a perception on what you feel is happening with the climate change agenda.
Yes, this is actually also another misunderstood thing. Yes, is there a political agenda in play? Oh, you bet there is. Is there a man behind the curtain regarding this? You would say with your Wizard of Oz vernacular, yes. Are there natural earth changes taking place? Yes, but for the most part, it is terraforming taking place. It has, I don't want to say it has nothing to do with the pollutants you put out there, because my people are involved heavily with getting humans to stop using certain chemicals. Even some of your sugars are that you the refined sugars poison us, they poison you, but they also leave in your wastes. And believe it or not, they turn into a different chemical out of the wilds, even through your wastes. I just want to say this quite fervently, that you have chemicals being farmed from you on a regular basis through your genetics and through the foods you eat. He would say it looks like hand sanitizer that they mine from people, or they take bile from the liver or heart tissue. They've done this. They've taken all sorts of tissue scrapings and skin cells and hair and whatnot, and DNA and blood and whatever the hell these other species want. But the thing that is going on right now, excuse, can you repeat the question? His brain is being affected from outside sources.
Just your perception on climate change agenda.
Yes, I do apologize. The external forces don't want this spoken about, so I will redouble my efforts. There is terraforming going on, but there is a large amount of political, just say, propaganda surrounding this. That everything that is going on around you is climate change, and it is caused by your fossil fuels. That is a very tiny percentage of what is going on. We do not like the fossil fuels being used in this way. Yes, it does clog the air, like you've seen, but they're making it look 10 times worse, because they're also covering for over a much larger agenda of terraforming. In less than 100 years' time, the Earth will be tropical, except for some smaller areas. This was actually, must say, this is a sped up natural process that the Earth was going to get to anyhow. This is a place there. Yes, the Earth will warm slightly. Yes, you are seeing, like, when you spotted those Portuguese man of war at Sandbridge that time, and they were too far north. Yes, the ocean is warming in some areas. Yes, the icebergs are melting, but they're being done very slowly, so the Earth doesn't cause a cataclysmic pole shift. This is actually being controlled in a very small, slow drip way. It's just like if you attempted to open a carbonized pop bottle, for instance, and didn't want it to fizz, say it got shook up a little bit, which the Earth has. So say if you just wanted to slightly let the carbonation out, this is what is being done. Now, with some of the things that could pollute, the ones that complain the most, more than our people do, are the Myrmidon. But we do work with them quite closely at times as well, especially the ones along the coastline. Is there garbage out there that has been planted out there in your oceans to make it look like it's worse than it actually is? Yes, I will say this, but is garbage a problem? Yes, it also is. You need the garbage reclamators like the Dwarven people have that can recycle everything. That is the perpetual philosopher's stone like you see on Star Trek. So that actually works, changing one thing into another thing on a molecular code number, like in your Matrix 4 movie, where they found the codes from the Matrix that for strawberry plants and were able to form real strawberry plants. You can do that with basically any object anywhere by finding its frequency molecular code number. But with this, the crux of the climate change argument, yes, there is a greenhouse effect. It is extremely gradual. What is happening is a very slow dripped terraforming, and the rest is political theater. Nothing more.
Yeah. Excellent. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Any further questions for myself?
No, what you were going.
I just a quick one. I heard from a channel 20 years ago that in the future we'll be actually heading into a mini ice age, not like a massive global warming that everybody's talking about. Is that true, or is that just a fallacy?
Even though the planet does go through ice ages, like what happened quite some time ago, that was actually the flood that caused that. It was fires, floods, and ice. Fire and ice. That was, you can blame Enlil partially for that one, and some of the other ETs during some of the end, let's just say the end to Atlantis and Lemuria at that time, and the Orions that were brought through in that particular period. That's where your Antarctica got covered in ice. That's part of Atlantis. But with this, yes, there are so many of these particular narratives going out right now. But the changing everything immediately to ice and some kind of cataclysm or a small ice age, that's basically up there with your Nibiru prophecy and your flat Earth narrative. It's a psyop.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
So what's going on in Australia? What is it? Would we call them your cousins? What would we call the forest people over in Australia? Can you talk a little about that side of the world?
Yes, you call them Yowie, even though it sounds like somebody stepped on a hot coal or stubbed their toe. Our cousins over there would appreciate that particular joke. That's almost like somebody associating them with the Bigfoot name, like they've stubbed their toe and went Yowie. But they would actually want to slap me for saying that because I've used a slur. But the reason we find Bigfoot a slur is because it is like saying somebody with glasses is called Four Eyes, or somebody who with making fun of weird hair. It's been seen as more of a slur, but we understand that when a particular word is coined, it sticks. Like with Yowie, that just means hairy person. To that extent, so not necessarily translated the same as what the Americans would say, like "yowie" or "ouch" or something like that. I was just making fun of them. But with them, they are indeed our cousins. They like on the west coast of the United States, they are indeed Lemurian descent lineage. As am I, by the by. But some of us migrated to this area from over there and stayed over in this area of the country, and that's where my tribe congregates. And so do the ones around Yorktown. We congregate with them quite often, even though we can portal to different sides of the country through different nexus points and apexes, or you call them ley line intersections, where there's portal hubs. Your Stonehenge is a good technological manifestation of one of those sites. And also bases, as you know, are built around a lot of these sites because your military are hogs when it comes to this. But and for the knowledge, and they want to control the information. Vortexes, in Sedona, they tried to basically cap those and tried to charge galactics for the usage of the energy that was there for millions of years. This didn't fly with some of them, and some of the galactics and the Mother Earth tried to move that particular apex away from the little gas station your military put up. And therefore, the Mother Earth put it back on the condition that the military was not to touch this, and we complied. We concurred with that. But our cousins in Australia, the Yowie, which are essentially the same, they would look essentially like some of your Lemurian descent lineage or Hawaiian Samoan look, but with a slight difference, because evolutionary-wise, they slightly changed when they went from Lemuria, or Mu, rather. Lemuria was just a small portion of Mu being the bigger continent. Some went up into your Japan space, where you saw them when you were in Japan, there with that descendant lineage that was there. Some went over into your United States and California, Washington, Oregon, Arizona, Vancouver Island up in Canada. That's the outer edge of Mu. Right there is Vancouver Island. You had some that went into Micronesia. That would be the Yowie group, They went into the Polynesian countries and went over into Australia. That is the descendant lineage of that other tribe. There were several tribes of Anakam lines that were council members on and council representation members of the Council of Lemuria when it existed 15,000 plus years ago. And some of those, again, were the elders you deal with in the United States, but some went over like the Dogmen did for Atlantis and had their elders in the same way, and had the werewolf descent lineage and the Antiquan descent lineage like your Anubis lines. We had something similar where there was another tribe, very much like you have your different races, like you have dark skin, light skin, red skin, yellow skin, and even, I must say, blue and green skin, I might add. There are blue and green humans as well that are descendant of different genomic structures. There are that adapted with a blue skin, which there are blue elves, Syrian elves, dark elves with a greenish hue as well. Some of them descend from some of those, mixed with some Untumban DNA as well. But with ours, that is just another race, just like you have multiple races and ethnic groups that existed on Lemuria. But to quickly sum up, they are our cousins, and we communicate with them often.
So what is did they have elders with them over there as well then, currently still alive?
Yes, from the Lemurian period, yes.
So, again, this isn't a slur or anything, but we've talked about before about, starting at a certain level all those years ago, of course, and then there being a little bit of what we call de-evolution that has happened. What would you say the average forest person's abilities were over in Australia?
So it's kind of the same across the board. Yes, there is a de-evolved group over there. The Orang Pendek, I will go back to that insane group. They descend from an offshoot lineage of that same grouping, I might add, from Lemuria. It's a de-evolved Yowie, is essentially what it is. You also have chimpanzees and orangutans, which are somewhere in between. They're more animals, but they are connected with the animal spirit of things, as are we to an extent, but we, like the Dogmen, have hybridized genes in that way, or you would consider it to be, but we are more of a solid being, not two, but one. But the Orang Pendek and ones like it, also in your Australia, there are a couple in the wild. They've mainly centered in like the Philippines, Polynesia, Indonesia, places like that, Indochina countries, Vietnam, places, and Laos and places like that. That is an offshoot of the Orang Pendek, and that particular grouping is basically a Yowie de-evolved split. The same happened with some elven groups that were in Greenland. There was a de-evolved group of them that took place that is now in Iceland. They like to abduct people. Some of them are cannibals. And there's even a famous case where a woman was taken down in the inner earth, tortured by them. They tattooed all these weird Celtic-looking tattoos on her and brought her out of the inner earth, and they found her on the surface, naked, and she had been gone for like 7 or 8 years. That is some of the de-evolved. They're like in your Elder Scrolls, you would say there are like there's the Snow Elves and there's the Falmer, which are the hateful de-evolved blind ones that were betrayed by the Dwarven groups, which is another elven group in it. It's because people backstabbed a lot in the real history, the same as that, with magic and real weaponry in the old wars. In this, some of the same kind of split took place, where, like the Face Eaters are for our people, this particular line skewed off, and they became very quickly not only targets of the Orions, which de-evolved. Their thoughts then began to contort their bodies, very much like in your Fable game series where you do something bad and begin to contort. Our people have that same effect. If we exist too much in, not necessarily just in anger, no, that's wrong saying. If we remain in a hateful type place, like the Falmer did in the game series, they de-evolved into that form. The same happened to the Orang Pendek and the Yowie when they split lineages. They became something different. Some elf species, like I said, had the same, where there was even one like there's a group called the Bosmicwi. In the Elder Scrolls series, they're called the Bosmer. They have this other group in it that look kind of like gremlins. That's their de-evolved counterpart. The same, that's an actual group. this happened to any group that remained in the space that the Orions were putting them in a continuous, unending, de-evolved cycle. Eventually, they became one in lockstep with that energy frequency. It's a frequency, again, you always say the strongest torsion field wins. In this case, it was a continuous AI manipulative beam that was aimed at some of them. Also, some genetic manipulation took place as a result, slow dripping them over to a feral barbaric species. Not all the orang pendek, though, have a cap like the face eaters do. Some do, ones that are captured by the aliens, of course. They figure they can reuse and regurgitate the genome. But there is something remaining in that hateful space will de-evolve a person. Just like they always say, negativity will destroy you or kill you. There is a truth to that, even though being angry about something is normal, integrating those feelings is normal. Remaining there is a space of de-evolution. And this is how we, in our perspective, see this. This is how the orang pendek line was created. It will take many centuries for that species, if at all, to, and I'm hopeful in this, but the Yowie, or the ones you call Yowie, avoid them like the plague. But I'm hopeful that all of these species eventually come out of this. Now, I also said there was the baboon species that was not beholden to AI. They are in a semi-barbaric state. You've even communicated with them before. They are called the Sirinakam. And some are very wise and some are not, just like yourselves. But they tend to see the world a little differently. They tend to see it through a different lens. That is, you would say it is a conflicting agenda. Let's just put it that way. It's different groups have different opinions on how to operate in the world. The Sirinakam, you have the Alarum, which then eventually unicorns were born from them. You have the Forbosi, you have ourselves, you have the Dogmen, which are the Antiquan lines. All of them tend to have different opinions on how to do things. Sometimes they conflict with the agendas of humanity. Sometimes they are co-synchronous. Most of ours are co-synchronous, but there are other groups. Again, the Orang Pendek line is the de-evolved offshoot of the Yowie.
So Allison brought up something earlier with her research about the conversation, and I'm curious whether what she was talking about is accurate or not, because what Allison was bringing up was coming to the conclusion that it seems like a lot of the forest people there may not be trying to have a lot of contact with humans over there. Is that your perception too?
Yes. And that is nothing against all people. Some do not like people. They've fallen into this disgust type of mentality, or they just want to be left alone knowing that humans, not to be insulting towards humans, but have not de-evolved. Some have, to a certain extent. They forgot where they came from, forgot certain things, that they are literally descendant lineages of colonists, like your movie 65 showed with the people that existed before Earth is a new territory. It's that kind of thing. That's the human origin point right there that was being depicted in the GF's heyday back in that particular period. But with these particular Yowie, it's just like you guys. If you were in a space, let's say, where you were living off the land, you like say some of your natives, you were living, you were trying to just do your thing, and military units, let's just say, wouldn't quit bugging you. Like there's a movie out there called The Last of the Dogmen, which is about Native Americans that mimicked real dogmen, but they were not ones that were not conquered by the U.S. government, but the U.S. government finds them and tries to conquer them anyway. Or like that Voyager episode where Seven and Chakotay get caught in that bubble with those people that mimicked the Seven's look and Chakotay's tattoos. But when the other people that were more evolved technologically wanted to come in, they would have destroyed them by teaching them and indoctrinating them. That's what happened to that. Was a story about your native tribes. This is also, sometimes they try this with the forest people because they are also another native tribe as well. So human groups try to impose some of their teachings onto them, and don't let sleeping dogs lie. No pun intended to the dogmen. But this particular, some groups just want to not have to deal with any of that, even if the humans are kind and would see them as equals. It's wonderful. But not all of them want to communicate that way. So most of what you're seeing is absolutely true, where they just want to be left alone. you will know when it's time to communicate, because then you have those particular ambassadors stepping forward, like myself, to do this very thing
So,
and build the bridge.
so is the United States then the most open place right now for actual force people communication?
Not always. There are parts of Russia, China, and Ukraine, ironically enough, that do. But you are correct, though, that the United States is the grand majority. Even though there are paramilitary groups that do hunt us, and the Lyrans quite often, we do risk communicating with people to show them some things that are going on, and also some of the scams that are going on out there as well. Especially if our people are spoken about inaccurately. Not that it's a vain ego type of thing. It is more of a historical accuracy thing. Some people might think it's anal retentive, but it is more of proper communications or unity. If you let a lie go on circulate enough, people will tend to believe it, and we don't want that believed about us or our attempt at unifying with humanity or reunifying with humanity. In that particular way, we're essentially kind of the same people, even though we're cousins of one another, kind of like you have in Star Trek. You have your Romulans and your Vulcans that were essentially one people, and the Mintakans were tribal offshoot. It's kind of the same relationship, except we're cousins of one another, like those two people. So the United States, yeah, I can honestly say yes. Europe in some places as well. But yes, the United States has become more and more, I don't want to say enamored, that's the wrong choice of words, have more an affinity with our people, because people are starting to recognize the ancient history. They themselves, their souls, were embroiled in with our own people.
So it is interesting. So one more question that I'm hoping Allison and Jason, maybe you've thought of some other questions with this conversation. But one other thing I am curious about, because we talked about this years ago with other people, because my curiosity is behind the scenes. And kind of, since people don't really understand all of the different races that live on this earth that are kind of behind the scenes unseen, I am always curious about the unification of groups, because my personal opinion is that we all have to somehow, there has to be some sort of unification going on with all kinds of groups in order to really, what I would say, properly get us out there, not within a bad narrative. But so it was nice to hear that you said you were cooperating with the Myrmidon. We were told right. Well, we were told before that there was progress on the unification, with certain dogmen as well, which was nice. So this has been.
We fight sometimes the more feral versions, also the werewolf versions, and forest people do fight from time to time, but that's an ancient rivalry that's coming to a close. Yes.
So from your perspective, because again, we asked this question, it had to be 3 or 4 years ago. So I am curious, unification behind the scenes with groups, how is it progressing?
That's more of a loaded question. There are unification of groups. A lot of them have their different agendas. And like what you say, conflicting agendas with one another. Sometimes they unify to go towards a common goal, either commerce or, unfortunately, sometimes abduction or mining of chemicals from people. Because remember, there are certain chemicals they farm. He equates it to the elephant that poops out the coffee beans and ferments them through the intestinal tract. It's kind of a similar concept with some of the chemicals you ingest from food, air, water, all of those things. And I see it as a disgusting practice. But the races that don't do these things, is there a unification between them? Tenuous at times, but yes, just like we've had dialogues with the Dogmen, we've had dialogues with some of the Bear Squatch groups and even Goat Squatch groups, aside from the Satyr type of interdimensional goat type beings. They're very similar to the de-evolved line, very much like the Orang-Pendek is for the Ayawi and the Face Eater is for us. It's a similar dynamic there. But is there a unification of minds at times? Yes. Like the old days, yes. It's almost like we're reminiscing of the old days, previous not only to Atlantis' destruction, but previous to Asgard's destruction as well. And the Asgardians would object to me saying destruction, but you know what I mean. It's a dimensional space, but the planet was an opening. Planet and world. You've recently discovered the difference between worlds and planets. worlds are the nesting doll, and planets are the open or closed locked door to these different dimensional areas. Very much 9 realms, 9 planets, that type of thing. But but yes, there has been amongst some of the very good groups. You've noticed, even noticed in recent days, that some are still willing to communicate, like your Saranan groups, for instance, like Isaac's group, for instance. He has a bit of Tuatha De Danann and Elfinim with Chris's line here. My group and several others that do stand with each other. It may not always be comfortable because we've not always been in a certain place together, or we might not speak the same language per se, or we might have a slightly different viewpoint on things. Like dragons view human sovereignty as different. For instance, they might see something that might need either be controlling or overbearing in some way, and they see it as a form of benevolence when it might seem oppressive. Draco, always oppressive. See the difference there? So there are tenuous relationships. There's even the Amma of Europe, for instance. They're part of the Tartarian world unity. And that particular group is how humans should aspire to be, is like a world unity, not a forced unity like a new world order, but a more of like the Tartarian world unity, that we're still here despite all the temporal changes, all the historical changes. We are still your cousins and brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, but at the same time, we will not circle the toilet with you in barbarism. We will not circle the toilet with you in hatred, but we are here when you're at a particular level.
Well, thank you. And you guys have any questions you've thought of?
Definitely.
I'm curious, with the beans here in Australia, is it part of history that people have gotten incorrect?
Oh, with the Yowie in particular?
Yes.
There are certain stories that are based out of fear, like the Myrmidon have plenty that they would like to bitch about too. But there's several off the coast of Australia. But there are, with the Yowie in particular, there are some that say that the Yowie steal children, or they're cannibals, or vampiric entities, or demonic, or like what I've said before, and some that also clash with people. The only time they would clash with people is if somebody's pointing a weapon at them, or if a human is invading their territory or chasing them down like an idiot. Like they're going, hey, it's a Yowie. I know they're excited, but some will just spook them and get the person out of there, just like a sentinel I told you is guarding a colony, and the person goes, God, they're actually pretty mean, and then they stereotype the entire group that way. Those are the things that irk them the most. This is also why some of them are skeptical to communicate, want to keep to themselves, because they know humans are not ready for the most part for that level of communication. It's like one of the fish people in your Aquaman movie saying, "We are here to teach them when they are ready to listen," type of thing. It's essentially that same thing, but every now and again there'll be some guy with a gun that thinks that it's the shark hunt, like it because of your Jaws movie sort of thing, and they have to get a trophy, or there are people that get excited. We love it when people are excited, but then they cross the territorial boundaries and the extraterritorial boundaries, things of that nature, and then they wonder why there are Yowie peeing on their tent in the middle of the night and stuff like that. And that's happened in the United States with some of our people as well. Not our most enduring times, I might add, just like you have some assholes amongst your groups. We have them amongst ours, and they don't always use tact when trying to drive humans out. And humans have formed a stereotypical thought form surrounding our people and also our cousins, the Yowie, in the same way.
That's good.
I've got something, if it's possible that a little bit of the actual history, because for some reason Uluru came to mind.
Oh, Uluru, yeah.
So Uluru, have you heard of Uluru being the Aboriginal rock formation that's literally been plonked in the center of Australia.
Yes, yes,
Um,
this is actually quite interesting. This has been around for millions of years. And yes,
yeah,
there are those stories of, like, say, your continent of Australia being a spaceship and all of those types of things. And I have to say, yes, there are continental ships that these land masses were taken from the planets that they came from, and these land masses were put on Earth by the very people that brought them in. In Australia, you have Uluru, or Ayers Rock, as you call it. That is more of, let's just say, Australia's heart. You want to say it's energetic, beating heart. And at the in the old days, in the days long before the Orion Wars, millions of years ago, when the Earth was seeded, when the continents or the bits of land were brought to this planet for the seeding process. There was a particular group that had more of a African tribal type appearance. They brought that particular continent, country, island to Earth, or at least part of it. It was actually a much smaller portion that actually grew out over the millions of years, had things form, had animals and ecosystems form around Ayers Rock, and eventually, when Mu and Lemuria came into being, it became part of that consortium. But that in Japan as well, they have their own story behind. The Untomans have their own story behind this, but it's very similar. But the Ayers Rock, think of it nature-wise, it is the beating heart of the land in which the original native lineage came from. You always say that Ptah guards Ayers Rock. I've heard this several times. Ptah, he is more of a Mu Lemurian type of person. He guards the heart of the land. There are many imposters of Ptah, I must say. He's thought he has communicated with Ptah. He has not. Ptah is more of the he's not necessarily a keeper of the flame or guardian, but he is more of the word Ptah is more no, Isaac, it is not like the Klingons say Ptah, which means idiot. No, it is in Star Trek, but it is more of a ranking, meaning the meaning it is the heart of Australia. It is basically saying this is the heart that guards the land. In the old days, when the continent was being seeded, or that area was being seeded, it was not necessarily a machine per se. It was more of a biosphere landmass type of device-ish type thing, that all life for Australia sprang forth from it. More the genetics, like an ark, it sprang forth from that, the Ptah of the land, or the heart of the land. So therefore, they say Ptah guards it. Ptah is not necessarily a being per se. It is a concept, meaning the heart or the focus, meaning kind of like your whole Garden of Eden concept, where it was more of like a terraforming, or a not for Garden of Eden, but for Australia. It was more like a terraforming of the area, or a panspermia in a more advanced way. Like, you have comets that drop bacteria and whatnot on the land, or if they want to seed a particular life form or something on the Earth, they put it in a comet. It was very, very similar, but it was placed, not thrown like the asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs back in the day. No, like you saw in that movie. But this was more of a seeding that took place from Uluru, or the heart, meaning the origin point of certain ecosystem, or certain animal types, like you see on Australia. But it was also part of Mu eventually as well, and both of those merged. So Uluru is or the Ptah is the original heart of the land.
Mm.
how close was the connection between Aboriginal, I'm not going to call them tribes because they don't like that, Aboriginal clans and the Beans, the Yowie?
That's actually quite interesting. Your Aboriginal tribes are descendants from the original I'll just say ET group that brought Uluru to Earth. The Yowie, when they were also part of Mu and Lemuria, when the Yowie also had a relationship with your Aboriginal tribes back in that day. And further on with their descendant lineages, they still do. They consider them their brothers and cousins from the old land or the old world. They have myths of like an old, like either an older landmass or an older place that they had a unity with the Yowie and other beings that didn't look like themselves. They even to this day they have a relationship with ETs that come and go. It is because they have a unique presence on the land of Australia, is because they were originally not necessarily caretakers like how your Native Americans have been branded with a race with that particular land esoteric wisdom. It's not the same thing. Yes, they are like a caretaker. That yes, they have bonded more with nature, but they are no different than any other human race. Same thing with your Native Americans, but they've just kind of been branded as the same thing. They've been also called the mutants down under in a famous book where they were teaching esoteric wisdom to Americans and British that came over there. But the relationship they have with the Yowie is that of brothers. They see that they're like how people trade with and have a symbiotic type relationship with a balanced relationship with dolphins per se, which are a type of mer. The dolphins will drive fish in where men and women can fish. This will cattle drive them in so natives can fish. It's kind of the same relationship, you see, where they both provide the space for one another and they both provide resources to one another. And they did so back on Mu as well.
Thank you. Do you have any question?
I'm just wondering, get my words out, Jason. How many of you are here? It sounds like there's like thousands and thousands of you, which is fantastic if that's the case.
Yes, absolutely. There are thousands and thousands of us worldwide, cousins of each other, both good and not so good. It's like yourselves. You would see a whole other world of beings, just like with the Tartarian world unity. They're in a different frequency. It would be like your Harry Potter. You'd run through a pillar and you'd be in a different train station, or a leprechaun showed him named Brumard showed him that he could jump into a mailbox and they'd be in a different space altogether. It's just like with your Harry Potter. It's very similar with us. Where we could go into a different space. You can even travel the worlds within worlds, which is a nesting doll that's still Earth, but you'd be surprised how many different worlds are within the nesting doll. You, of course, Agartha, and you have Asgard, Midgard, Agartha. That's only 3. You have a multitude of them where different races spread between them through various portals around the planet. Like his friends Elena and Vesa pass through one quite often in your above Vegas, for instance, in your Valley of Fire and Red Rock Canyon. There's one there because there's a society of elves that also lived in the surrounding areas, and Syrian descent lineages, unfortunately, and different types of de-evolved elven troll types that exist out there, and fish. De-evolved fish and mer types that exist in the ancient ocean areas there that de-evolved into more telepathically manipulative little pricks. But in this instance, sorry for the language, but this is how I feel about some of them. But this is, but with my people, even aside from the dimensional travel and the spaceship travel and the system travel and also the native types, if you added it all together, there's millions of us. So worldwide. So there are quite a few. And this is why your people run into us on a regular and constant basis.
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you.
Well, is there nothing else? No, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah. So how can we dive more into the frequency to experience all these other worlds?
Humans are descendants of the original colonists here. Yes, because of the Orion Wars, there was a bit of de-evolution that took place and an oppression that shut down some of your abilities to be able to sense all the surrounding other worlds within worlds, and also your nature environment. Plug into nature as much as possible. feel out your own space, your own internal spaces, get rid of the, you said cobwebs in that way. And the cobwebs that you mean with the forgetfulness, that is the outward forces trying to get you to forget to not to communicate to us. This is what I was saying. Something was hitting himself to forget the questions surrounding the global warming and all of that stuff. But the way that you communicate with us is there's a word that's universal to my people known as analam, meaning the calm or calm, the calm space, and that space where yes, you react to the things you should, but don't react to the things you shouldn't, and always do not be in a constant warlike state, or again that hateful torsion field. When it's mind and heart together and you're in the space, that is a way to access these spaces. This is how my people see it. Others use technology and, as far as I'm concerned, cheat. But there are some that go into these other dimensional spaces and just hit a button and then voila, they're in another space. They cheat. Now, just like in your, well, I'm just messing with them. They don't actually cheat. But it's just like in your Man in the High Castle, for instance, where you saw people, travelers traversing the multiverse and just transporting themselves with their heart and minds and their energies. Then you had the Nazi forms that were using the equipment. It's essentially the same thing, but only not that black and white. It's not that you have to be in a completely positive space to move energetically. It's just more of a calm-ish type of space or balanced space, balanced energetically. And you can accomplish this, but technology can also get you there. But if that's not available, the calm space.
Thank you. That's really good advice.
Calm space.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get that.
Good. We're getting towards the end of the show. So any last words you want to say before we bring Chris back in?
No, this has been fascinating. I know I've been a bit of a, you would say, a windbag coming to talk about, I may not have the vernacular correct, but this is how I've never actually done this particular way of communicating before. I've done MindSpeak, of course. Yes, that is a form of channeling. Yes, it is, because we were relaying information that way. But being able to do the fusion like this is something that is foreign to myself, but it's a quick adaptation. I myself have, like I said, have usually been more of a beach bum and been in the calm and silent spaces, just watching people. I know that may sound creepy from a particular perspective, but even though your bad guys do it the creepy way where they people watch, and your cabal and your military people watch, we more like people watch to help in the unification process, and that's really it. Also the fact that we want to be able to communicate again with our human cousins. You'll be surprised how many races humans are related to out there. Dozens and dozens, because of the different genomic structures and hybridized genes. It's like you see people all the time on your news or on another program or something that may look like an elf, or they might look like a monkey, or they might look like a kind of like have a bug-shaped face, or they might have just different looks. That may seem like it might seem familiar as a different form, or even have bird-like features. All true, just like in your Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, when you saw the different races that had the different looks, that had that unified in the Tartarian world unity that's actually taking place. So you're remembering it, also like in your Grimm, where you saw the different beings that had been split by the Reapers. That was a nod to the Orion Wars. So, and the splitting of humanity, or the Tower of Babel falling. That was actually a story of Atlantis and some of your Mesopotamian stories as well. But it was mainly Atlantis. It was a translator, like your TARDIS and Doctor Who could translate languages. It was a translator that when that computer got corrupted by the artificial intelligence, the Orions, they split all the languages, divided, conquered, and then controlled. What they did there was they got people to self-farm the AI garbage beforehand so they could connect a signal across time. And when that happened, the Tower of Babel fell. It was your Nimrod in the Bible, which now means stupid. That particular, or a particular king like him, connected the technology and was a scientist that connected the portal to the past. Your women of Atlantis connected mystically or telepathically or magically, and combined, they allowed the Orion signal to take hold in that time frame. This is very important to understand because that was the division of languages at that point. So reunifying back to a point of unity, not as one language, but as one people. You see, that we're, like you always say, we're all one. There is a truth to that, but we all have our individual personalities. We're all individual souls, but in the premise, we're all one, meaning we are all brothers and sisters under the same sky. So this is what is meant by this.
Thank you.
So I will take my leave, but I will be around most assuredly. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, he was, at first he was uncomfortable, but it was like I've run across beings that are slightly uncomfortable at first, and like there's like a weird vibrational difference there, but then he was able to mesh it quite easily after that.
Good.
They adapt quite quickly. So I've had to adapt quickly doing that myself, just like coming out of this. People have often said, hey, Chris, how do you come out of that so quickly? I'm really not. I'm in a half sleep wake state, even as I'm talking now, to reground. And this is also, there was a medium not too long ago that had, it was scientifically tested as he did readings, and the theta and alpha waves were going back and forth, showing him as asleep and awake at the same time as he was doing his reading. And that's absolutely true to what I do. So I feel myself, reground, but I also, a part of me still pays attention that I'm on a show and speak like this and bring it back in line. So yes, Isaac, I know I babble, shut up, but I hear, he has a communication arc, so we hear him all the time. So but yeah, this was actually, yeah, this is, oh yes, yes, I did, I almost forgot.
Yeah.
This was something Vitos actually wanted said. I don't know if you haven't, you both have anything else to add before we close the circle to this episode.
No.
Okay.
No,
Okay. Now this is actually something, the title of this episode, they wanted to be called The Truth of the Forest People. Okay, make sure I get the right one here. Okay. This is the quote by Vitos the other day. We are not angels, demons, or ghouls in the night, but we are quantum. We do not merely answer to the beck and call of people or whoops in the woods, only prospects of unity, brotherhood, and lasting communication. At least some of us do anyway. Peace out, Vitos. That's what he wanted to put. And then he said use it as one of the affirmation and blessings. And we figured we would end the show with that. So I now officially close this circle within true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. Thank you, Allison, Jason, for being on tonight as well while we film this. So this has been an excellent show. So thank you, everybody. And bye-bye now.
Bye.
Yeah, I liked that. That came out wonderful. I had a feeling it was going to, because yeah, he's very easygoing. So extremely easygoing. And calm. Yeah, I learned that word years ago. Oh, the analam, that means calm in their universally in their languages. So yeah, learned that from Puma and them. So yeah, that and Seymour and them. So I use it quite a lot. But yeah, that was funny what Isaac said. Harry Lives Matter. I knew he was going to bring that up, but I almost want to brand that, but no. Just he was kidding.
That was helpful. That was very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
It's like bridging, as you said, bridging all of us together, because we are one. Yes, individuals, but we are one. We are one big family. So it's like getting back to the family on another level again. So yeah, well done.
Right. So I think it's so important to understand. I've always been a big person of, whether people think it's a fable or not, I think we need to bring forth what we understand as galactic history, because there were unities, there were all this stuff. And then kind of, then the fall occurred. I call it the fall, from the fall to the lifting. But that understanding of the unity that once occurred, as well as the understanding that this was a seeded planet. We didn't all just originate somehow out of Africa, that there were multiculturals
that came here, that brought even land masses that participated in this area before the Orions got here. You know what I mean? I think, many of the races, and I don't know the Aboriginals. I didn't ask this because I knew this had to end. We could keep asking questions forever, but I thought it was interesting because he said the Aboriginals were the descendants of the original colonists that planted the first landmass there, which I don't know how the Aboriginals feel as far as, do they see themselves as ancestors from the
I don't think
the
they
skies?
do.
I don't
They
even
do.
know.
Actually, they do. They do.
They do? I
They
didn't
do.
even know
Yeah,
that.
they do.
I don't know that. I'd be curious.
They
I read
have-
that somewhere. Yeah.
it depends on the different parts of Australia. So northern, where Alice Springs is, there's what they call Chukapa. Chukapa is their stories. Chukapa and Dreamtime are very different, because Chukapa is how the land came into being from giants, where Dreamtime is how the land came into creation from dreaming. So it depends on the different parts of Australia, of the different clans. Because I remember when I was in Alice Springs, when I learned about the Chukapa, they wanted to make sure that you don't confuse Chukapa with Dreamtime. So it is very different.
Oh, dreaming, like the landmass and the being. That's basically how it was seeded. So they basically visualized how they want it. So it's like dreaming
Well,
or
but some,
manifesting
yeah,
something.
but
that
some
isn't
people
so.
don't believe that.
Yeah.
They don't believe that at all.
That's the
Yeah.
history that's being told. It's just been diluted down a little bit. That's the same thing.
Yeah, so everyone understands Dreamtime, but not everyone understands Chukapa, and I think that's because maybe the clans of Alice Springs in the Northern Territory keep that so secret. Like when I was there, we could only teach children Chukapa because there's children, then there's adult, and then there's elder. And we could only teach children Chukapa because we were not allowed to touch or know any of the other history or information. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Because they see us children, they see white men as children, so we only get to teach children Chukapa.
Oh, okay. I see that also. Yeah, in one of the Star Trek series, in Deep Space Nine, there was a character that was a Bajoran priestess or something that wouldn't allow a human to teach Bajoran children about like there were these aliens in it that they called prophets in it, and humans viewed them as aliens, viewed them as incorporeal aliens. A class of the Federation had classified them as an alien species that had no physical form, and that had just turned into an energetic form or like an ascended type of thing. And the Bajorans went, no, these are prophets. We regard your Captain Sisko as an emissary. This is how we see things. We see that these aliens they're not aliens, they're prophets to us. And the Bajorans had a big, they clashed with the humans in schools where they had the different children all in one place. They're like, don't teach Bajoran children this. They have to know our history first, type of thing. It's a ssimilar thing in the show where you see that clash of cultures. Where humans viewed things totally different from a scientific point of view, and then there was one from a spiritual point of view, and they rammed horns. The character's name was Kai Wynn, and she was one of the most annoying characters in the entire series because she was like some old Christian woman in a neighborhood, basically, Bible thumping type of person. It was like she was one of the most annoying, obnoxious characters in the whole series. But I thought that reminded me of that just a little bit, where you were saying they wanted their own children to only go to a certain level from being taught. That actually makes sense. I've heard that before. So
you can only teach Westerners children Chukapa.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. So if I had to share a story with you, I could only share children Chukapa, because you would be considered a child. We would be considered children. So that's the.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I see the difference now. Yeah.
It's the privilege of knowing the more adult version.
Yeah.
And you can
society.
Sorry.
Is there anyone are there layers to that society where the higher level knowledge is kept, or is only the childhood level on Earth?
No, there are there will most likely be elders that know all the information.
Mhm.
But if you are tour guiding and you are sharing stories, the elders will decide what stories can be shared, and they will keep the elder information, because not everyone knows so everyone will learn child stories. As you're growing up, you're a child, you learn the basic fundamentals of how to be in society, like Aboriginal clans, how to be in the clan, how to operate in the clan, kind of what you teach children now, how to be in society. And then when you reach to manhood, there will be more learnings, more stories, more understandings. And then as you get older and you get to adulthood or elder, then if you reach elder, then there'll be more history, more understanding. So there's 3 tiers to the information that gets shared.
Oh, okay, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. And also, that's how some of those groups, like some of the ET groups, view us too, where they can only give so much to us because they see us sometimes as children or children learning. Yeah.
I think of Freemasons, not in a bad way, but a level, levels of learning to the top of the
level tier
pyramid.
too.
Yeah.
That's where they got that from. Yeah, too. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can only learn a certain amount of information in Alice Springs or in their Chukopa history, and a man cannot know woman information, and a female cannot know man information. So they separate the clans that way as well.
Wow,
there's men, then there's women. So you and I, they'll at Uluru, there's man cave, and then there's woman cave. And man cannot go into woman cave, and woman cannot go into man cave. They're completely separate. But then there is family cave, where men and women and children can go to as well.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's very, very different. Yeah.
Oh, that's very, very, very different. It seems they've taken on like we said, the tribal way of doing things, but genetically, they're the descendants of the original colonists there.
They may not know. They may all not know that.
I don't think I think some isolated groups, I think, might, because it's been brought up by British and American people that have come in contact with them over the decades that have found out certain things from elders, very rarely. So there are some people I think that do, but also in a fable sense, where it's more like legend rather than a more of a bridged history type of thing. I think it's about at that stage. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I reckon because everything gets handed down, the stories get handed down verbally. There's no actual. They never believed in written history. It's all done with sand drawings and verbal communication. So paintings as well. So yeah,
the Native Americans are the same way. Yeah, the Native Americans the same way. Yeah.
So the information might have gotten lost.
Yeah, they would
along the way, because
a 100 monkey thing where it gets lost along the way from person to person. And also, both the Native Americans and the Aboriginals were essentially Lemuria groups as well. So you can see how they're similar. They're similar to one another. Yeah, they were connected by Mu. So I can see how they were similar. That's interesting how they have that caste like type of thing going on. That's. But I didn't think it was quite like that, because apparently some of the people I've spoken to didn't view things that way, and some natives didn't view things that way. But yeah, that's interesting how they have that now that way. It had to have been probably some elder long ago. Maybe something got misinterpreted, and they felt they had to separate. It could have been Orion interference that did that. So after a while as well. So yeah,
possibly. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, there was. That you would keep them separate, but then there will be family, a section for both male and female. But yeah, there's definitely a male section and a female section, and you don't intermingle unless you go into family section.
Yeah, it's just like with the Native Americans. I found out with that one rock in Wyoming, the Devil's Rock they had in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where it has those like scratches down the side of it and everything. And their myth is that a giant bear was hunting a native group, and that native group flew off to the Pleiades. And that was actually the contorted history where the Orions were chasing a Pleiadian group off the planet. Essentially, is what it was. Like the bear was hunting, or the hunter Orion, the hunter was hunting them that way, and it was in Greek mythology where you had the seven sisters. That's where the Pleiades name came from. Where you had Orion the hunter hunting the seven sisters. It was the same story that was being told. Orion's hunting them. I'm thinking this happened a little bit of that influence with the Aboriginal tribes as well, a little bit, because some of them are descended from some of these very same groups that were hunted as well, like with the Yowie, same thing. So I'm thinking that's why some of these myths got distorted, and I'm thinking that's why you have the system that's in place now. It's just distortions of how certain family units probably work to that particular group, and it got diluted over a period of time, like the information, the 100 monkey thing. I'm thinking it's the same thing. Yeah, that's what it feels like to me anyway. Yeah.
The Peruvian shamans also have the story about the seven sisters, which is exactly the same thing, that the women got hunted down by a man, and the only way they could escape was to become stars.
Mm.
And that's
that's them going back to the stories. That was the same thing. The Orion hunters hunting all the different groups down to basically the ones that wanted to unify. That's what the Tartarian information too, where people tried to unify with several groups, and the Orions went in like hell you are, and scattered them again. So that's what because they saw that people were trying to create like almost like a new Atlantis, and they're like, no, we're going to break this party up and erase your history on top of it, and mud flood everything and just erase it, and you're just going to be considered barbarians at that point. That's essentially how that happened too. It's the same story being told and retold. So yeah, we did a lot of channeling stuff on Xanadu and Genghis Khan and all that other stuff in the Tartarian world unity, and found out that the Great Wall was actually the original border of the Tartarian Empire. It didn't come after or during Xanadu's time. It came before it. And it was actually, they just piled more rocks on top of it in the Xanadu period. But it's like, and then they always said the Mongols were the ones to destroy Xanadu. I found out that the reason I found out there's some irradiated dirt in that area, and I found out there was a nuclear blast that went off, or like a dirty bomb type of thing that went off. That's what the Orions did, scattered the people of Xanadu, got the Mongols, some of the more barbarian tribes, to turn on the people that were there. And that was a past life I saw, where there were these shorter people coming in and destroying the libraries with the old wisdom and the old histories and stuff in it. But all these people started to just kind of hate each other after a while. This was even in our more recent history, like in Marco Polo's time frame and everything. I found out that the Orions were doing that then too. So we were looking into that, and a lot of extensive history on that links into Lemurian Atlantis and all that stuff too. So how some timelines got screwed up, temporal war type garbage in there, and multiversal stuff and everything. The Orions were using. I found out the Ark of the Covenant was there too. That's why you had the whole temporal shatter thing going on with the Tartarian Empire. It was a forge that could forge any type of weapon or situation, and it had basically a nuclear core in it. And Enlil and some of the Orions used it to basically do a time break or a shatter effect. And that's essentially what I found out what happened with Tartaria, with Atlantis, with several other instances in history as well. The walls of Jericho, all those things. So it'd be interesting to go through these again, but some of these things again. But yeah, we found that out when we were on GIC, when we were going through some of the Ark of the Covenant information and all that stuff. So it was actually quite interesting. It interlocks to the topics we were touching on today too. So it's on the edge of it a little, but yeah, it interlocks with it. Yeah, I thought it was quite interesting.
Oh, remember also when I said Odin also, as well as the forest people, used the bird forms? And of course, Odin's famous for his 2 ravens. Well, in Prescott, we had ravens quite a bit. All Prescott Valley, ravens everywhere. And that was the place I saw that giant 3.5-foot high elemental being, which was actually a forest person looking at me through, a raven form. And that's what that was. They wanted me to see that, but didn't want the picture taken. I also tried to film it, and I just filmed the bird flying away. In the other form. I was supposed to see it with my eyes, but not with this. So, I mean, usually you have to honor that. Up on Thumb Butte, when we were taking pictures up there, they said only take a few and you'll catch us, but take no more. And we caught them. We caught Seymour, we caught Mirak, and we caught Fuma. So we're grateful for that. But in after a session, not a session, but after a GIC episode, one of the older ones, stood out and looked at the roof of the house across the street, not across the street, but right next to us. There was this giant piece of shrubbery that looked like the back end of a bird with the wings and the tail and on the back, like a gull or a hawk or a falcon, or a raven, even the back end of the tail. And there was a raven sitting on the roof and was going, "Heh," like that, on the roof. And I said, well, if you're Odin, if you're true benevolent Odin, squawked like 5 times, and went, "Heh, heh, 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 heh," like that. I did 10, it did that, and I said in a whisper, there's no way that bird could have heard me. I said 10, and I said 2, I did random numbers, did it all, every time. And that's how I knew that it was Odin. And the forest people do that as well, but I said it in a whisper. I just said it low, like this, like really low, and I was sitting in the office. And that's something I wish I had filmed, but that's, again, one of the things that you just cherish in the moment without filming. Like, people film things too much, like my mother complained when we went to the Neptune Festival. At times like, "Oh, you're taking too many pictures, doing this, doing that." And, you just remember them. And that's true. George Carlin even said that, people always think they're Federico Fellini going around filming, and then he goes, does anybody even look at this crap, and why don't we just remember things, afterwards? Does anybody look at it afterwards, or they just stick it in a box somewhere? And that's usually the case. So instead of doing that, yeah, he was right, remember them. So, and that's usually how these cases are, like with the forest person forming part of itself, morphing enough to where I could see it as a 3.5 foot high, bird / elementalish type of thing, form or being, and then Odin using the ravens. So I find it interesting. So I'll leave that here. Just know that this happened while we were in Prescott Valley. I wish I'd been able to film it, but again, remember them instead. So it is 10:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturday, September 30th, 2023. Thank you.